Is now, and welcome to my video on game development. We're going to be using Scratch, which is a lovely program to develop games in. We're going to start off nice and easy by showing you how to control the looks of the characters. Let's see what we're going to do. So in this tutorial I will show you how to sign up for a Scratch account, introduce you to the interface or layout of the web app, so show you where the buttons are, and show you how to create and edit costumes. I will show you how to change the costumes using keys, so keyboard keys, and I'll then explain how to share your game. So, a bit of vocabulary. We've got costume, which obviously you know that's an outfit or clothing, usually worn by actors, sort of thing. But it describes the look of your character or your sprite in Scratch. An event is something that starts something in Scratch. For example, a key press. You could have a space bar that starts your game, or in our case, a letter on the keyboard that changes your character into different costumes that are built into the character. And then lastly, share is the way to let others see your project, which by default, unless you change it, is set to private or unshared and can't be discovered until it is shared. Right, steps to success for this lesson. By the end of this lesson you will know how to create a Scratch game, what costumes are and how to use them, and then how to share the Scratch game. Nice and easy. Before I show you Scratch, just going to remind you of some eSafety stuff. So your usernames should not contain your name, or your date of birth really, but definitely not your name. Your passwords could be passphrases, sentences. For example, how do you like me now? This is a really strong password because, I mean, the capital, yeah, it's got a capital in it, but it's at the beginning, which is quite obvious. But it's got, what's that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different words in it. Do ya? It's not even a word in the dictionary. And the word like has an exclamation mark for an L. The question mark on the end is probably about as obvious as the capital at the beginning, but basically that's a really secure password, and it's just a sentence that you need to remember. Okay, so we're going to go to the Scratch website in a sec. Here's the link. So obviously it's Scratch. MIT is a university in America. The Massachusetts Institute of Technology. It's a very big, very good university. They knock out loads of programmers. And then the .edu is obviously .education in America. In England we've got SCH, so .sch for schools, and .ac for academic. So it's usually .sch.uk or .ac.uk. Right, oops. Let's go to the link. Right, so you can straight away start creating. So there's a start creating button there. There's a create button up there. Just going to show you that you can join Scratch. I recommend this because it means that you can share your projects. There's the username, so obviously don't put your first name or surname in there. Make up something weird, I don't know, Golden Unicorn 367, who knows. And then your password. If you've got someone looking over your shoulder, you're showing them or they're helping you or whatever, remember to click this off. I'll tell you by experience, yeah, it's a very amateur mistake to make. On the following screens you'll be asked for your year of birth and your country of residence. But apart from that, and your email address, so use your school email please. Anyway, so that's how you join up Scratch. Let's just head back. I'm going to log in because otherwise the share button doesn't show. Let me just show you that actually. So if I click create, it will load the project. Dun dun dun. you see there's no share button on there. If I sign in though, so teach, because I'm well funny, yep, sign in, and we've got the share button, which we'll be using at the end. So, introduction to the layout of the this web app. You've got your tutorial here. I haven't looked through them, but I'm sure they're lovely. Let's just cross that off. We've got 3 tabs. First one is code, which we're going to be using at the end of the lesson. Just out of interest, these blocks, you're going to drag these code blocks to build sort of a jigsaw puzzle of your code. The beauty is that you don't have to do typing so much, so there's no problems with spelling and syntax and getting your capital letters and all that kind of stuff in the right place. So really easy. We're going to be using this tab. Let's get rid of that. The looks tab, so we're going to be using this switch costume too. Maybe we'll have a look at some other bits, but that's basically it. And then events, these are triggers. So, for example, when start is clicked, it's the beginning of the game. You know, you can make code run at the beginning of the game, or we're going to be using when buttons are pressed. So when space is pressed, start the game, or something like that. Okay, you're going to drag your code into the middle area here. That's your stage with Scratch the Cat already on there. You can name your sprites here, and there's some other bits and bobs. When you create your characters, your sprites, they'll appear across the bottom here. With costumes, which is what we're going to look at next, this it looks like paint, and I dismissed it. I thought, oh, it's only paint, but actually it's far more powerful than just paint. With paint, when you draw something and then you draw something else over the top of it, the layers kind of stick together, or there aren't really layers as such. But with this, when you draw a shape, it stays separate from the shapes that it touches, which is a beautiful thing. And some other bits and bobs. Let me just not get carried away here, because generally actually quite excited by this drawing package. Weird, but you know, I'm a teacher. Yeah. Right, so my costumes appear down the side. Scratch is unusual in that he's got a couple of costumes already built in. They are for simulating walking, so there's 2 of them there. We can edit one of them, so for example here, I'm going to, let's see, draw a moustache. There you go. That's an amazing moustache. Oh, thank you. Let's give him some hair, because all cats need hair. And there you go. And then the beauty of this is I can use the black arrow to move these things around, and then I can use the sub-select black arrow to grab hold of these little nuggets, and I can reshape whatever it is that I've designed. Obviously I don't want it quite like that. And then obviously there's a rubber, there's text tool, there's circles, squares, all that kind of good stuff. A really useful one is this button here, flip horizontal. So if you want your if you want your character to face in a different direction for that costume, you can just flip it that way, or let's go upside down, something like that. Anyway, and then there's all these bits and bobs that you can read for yourself. If I was to draw, actually, on the next scene, let's just put him in a space helmet. Like, okay, that's a filled shape. Let's give it no fill. No fill. Outline colour, because all spaceship helmets are purple, obviously. Let's give it a thickness of 10. Yeah, a really terrible space helmet. Okay, anyway, so you can resize and do what you fancy with this. It's actually really excellent for designing characters. I must remember this program. So, yeah, there's the drawing tools, and you can see what he looks like on that side. If you want to design your own using a different software package, like for example Pixlr, which I've mentioned in previous tutorials, I'll put a link in the description. You could use the camera, so you could take a picture of, I don't know, some scenery perhaps, to put your characters in. You can use the upload button, so you can upload from your device. So if you'd made something in Pixlr, you could save it down to your phone or your laptop, whatever, and then upload it using that button. There is a random costume which is linked to the library. We'll come back to that in a sec. And then for a new drawing, you can click the paint button. The library, which I don't really want you to use any of these with the work that you're going to submit to me. I'd like you to draw your own. But for example, I could, let's go for Abby D, and she's appeared as my third costume. So I've got Moustache Cat, Space Cat, and Abby D. When it comes to the background, students generally try and put a sprite in as a background, but actually it's slightly tricky, it's annoying, but if you press this button, you can just about see on this side, can you see it says stage? There's a button underneath it. So costume turns into backdrop, and for example I could, let's just upload something, Scratch on the Moon, why not? Something like that. Just going to get rid of the other backdrop. Okay, so I'm just left with that one background. Yeah. Let's go to the code. So I've shown you how to create your characters, even shown you your background. Heading over to code. So I said we would be using looks. So let's go switch backdrop to, oh actually, sorry, just this one, switch backdrop to. You can also use next costume, so you can scroll through costumes as you wish. And the events button, let's go for one of these. So I could change this. So you could use the spacebar to start the game as such, but you can use the letters on the keyboard. Actually, you can use up, down, left, right if you want to, but we're going to use the letters. So let's go letters. Oh, backdrop. Oh, of course I need to convert that back. Where are my sprites gone? Shh. Oh, how do I change to? Ah, there you go. Right, so we're back on costumes now. So I want to, when spacebar is pressed, in looks, we're going to go with switch costume to. So when button A is pressed, switch it to the first costume, and we go back and grab hold of when button B is pressed, switch costume, back and forth and back and forth. So we'll go to the second costume. Of course, this is getting kind of repetitive, so there must be a faster way of doing it. So if you right click on the top shape and choose duplicate, then we can just change that to C and the third costume like that. So if I press, let's just get this back again slightly bigger. So if I press A, and then B, and then C. You can see where I did that spaceman's helmet now. It's not just a cat in a circle. And that's how you change the costumes using the keys on the keyboard. Last tab is sound. We're not going to be using it this lesson, but just be aware that you can add sounds in. There's sound library, all that kind of good stuff. There you go. And that's why we don't have speakers in school, because I would be driven insane by the end of the lesson if the students were allowed to press that button. Anyway, last thing I was going to show you was the share button. So there we go, go for share. You can name your work so you look like a professional. Let's go for costumes, because that's what this game is about. And then I'm going to press copy link. Notice it says unshared over here. You press copy link, and then you can either copy directly there, or you can press copy link, and that will copy the link into the clipboard of the computer. So you could then paste that into an email and share your work. I thought, but it's still not shared here. But if I refresh the page, because I pressed that copy link, you see that unshared business goes, and it says the date that it was first shared. So, there you go. That's how to use Scratch. Let's finish on the PowerPoint. So, last thing, your mission, if you choose to accept it, you can either write instructions on how to make a character in Scratch and share a Scratch game, or solve the crossword that I've attached to your homework. I'll show you that in a sec, and I've put the questions in the description should somebody else randomly find this video and want to know what it's all about. Or lastly, you can do exactly what I showed you and create a character with several costumes and set keys to change the costumes. It's up to you. When you're writing the instructions, you could maybe include this phrase, switch costume, and these keywords, events and share. Sentence openers I've suggested maybe you could use when starting to design a Scratch game, blah blah blah. Or you can switch costumes using controls such as la-di-da. And when you've finished, you can let others see your work by sha-za-za. So you've got some sentence openers. I'll just show you here's the crossword. So we've got 8 clues, 8 answers to put in. All of the answers were in this video, so you should be set right to answer all the questions on the crossword. So, enjoy, and I'll see you next week.